This presentation looks at content creation as a system problem, not a creativity gap. Most teams feel the pain in every post. Too many handoffs, unclear roles, and inconsistent standards. We will explore how a governed AI-driven operating model can reduce friction while keeping humans in control of approvals and risk. By the end, you will have a clear way to evaluate whether a platform like Ryza fits your organization and how to approach rollout with accountability in mind. Digital marketing teams often operate like a loose collection of projects instead of a unified system. Content moves between strategists, creators, approvers, and channels, with each handoff adding delay and confusion. Standards for tone, brand, and risk are interpreted differently by different groups, so every channel and post looks slightly off. When something goes wrong, no one can see exactly where the process broke. There is no single owner for each decision point. This creates frustration for stakeholders and leaders, and ultimately limits how much content you can scale with confidence. The root issue is not only the number of people involved, but the way work travels between them. Content often lives in email threads, chat messages, separate docs, and isolated systems, with no governed path from idea to published asset. Review cycles repeat the same manual checks on every draft because there is no shared system that encodes standards once and reuses them. When leaders ask simple questions about who approved what and when, it can take days to reconstruct the history. The lack of a clear audit trail raises risk and makes compliance and governance feel like a constant scramble, rather than a steady, predictable process. To change this, we need to stop treating each asset as a unique event and start viewing content as an operating system. That means mapping repeatable workflows for common content types, instead of reinventing process for every campaign or post. In a healthy system, AI and automation can handle drafting, formatting, and structured reuse, while humans decide what is on-brand, compliant, and ready to go live. The focus shifts from relying on individual heroics to clearly defined roles across the content system. This reframing creates the foundation for scale, because it puts process, not personalities, at the center of delivery. Ryza is positioned as a governed, AI-driven platform that treats content creation like an operating system problem. Automation is used where it reduces friction, generating first drafts, suggesting reuse of existing assets, and keeping structure consistent across formats. At the same time, human stakeholders remain the authority on approvals, risk decisions, and sensitive brand judgments with clear checkpoints. Governance rules are built into the system so that roles, workflows, and standards are not optional guidelines, but enforced parts of how every post moves through the pipeline. This balance allows teams to move faster without sacrificing control. A practical operating model starts with 3 layers. First, define standard workflows for your most common content patterns, such as social posts, blog articles, or campaign landing pages, so each follows a repeatable path. Second, assign accountable owners for each stage in the workflow, making it clear who can request, edit, approve, and publish in the system. Third, configure how AI assists at each stage based on the risk level of that content. More automated drafting for low-risk items, more guardrails and human touchpoints for sensitive topics. This layered approach keeps the model simple to understand while still flexible enough to handle diverse marketing needs. Governance only works when roles are unambiguous. Instead of assuming people know where their authority begins and ends, document decision rights in plain language and tie them directly to workflow steps. In Ryza, that means clearly separating who drafts content, who can approve for brand and legal standards, and who has the responsibility to audit the overall system. These role boundaries then become part of the platform configuration, so the system itself prevents work from skipping steps or bypassing required checks. This approach reduces interpersonal friction and makes accountability an outcome of the design. When leaders assess a platform like Ryza, the key criteria are operational, not promotional. First, does the platform make your end-to-end content process clearer than it is today, with fewer handoffs and fewer surprises? Second, does it provide robust auditability so you can trace how each piece of content moved through the system, who touched it, and which standards were applied? Third, does it include a structured approach to change management, including how teams adopt new workflows, update governance rules, and evolve standards over time? Evaluating against these dimensions helps ensure you are solving system problems, not just buying another tool. If you skip the operating model and only add AI or automation, you often make current issues larger. A broken process, when automated, can generate more off-brand, inconsistent content faster than before, increasing review burden and risk. Stakeholders may start to see content as unreliable, which harms brand perception and exposes the organization to compliance problems. At the same time, repeated tooling changes without clear process improvements create change fatigue, making teams less willing to adopt the next system. Designing the model first, then applying governed automation helps avoid these outcomes and protects long-term trust. A practical rollout begins with a narrow, well-defined area of content, such as one region, one product line, or one channel. Within that slice, you configure Ryza to reflect real workflows, real roles, and real approval requirements. Then observe how work actually flows through the system. This phase tests your governance model in practice, revealing where rules are too rigid, too loose, or unclear for teams. Once roles, standards, and guardrails are stable and accepted, you gradually expand the operating model to more content types and markets. This phased approach keeps change manageable while building internal confidence in the new system. Your next steps should focus on clarity and readiness. Begin by mapping how content actually moves today, paying special attention to handoffs, delays, and shadow approvals that never make it into formal diagrams. Then, define a target role structure, including who owns which decisions and what level of auditability leaders expect from the system. With that foundation, you can assess how well a governed platform like Ryza can encode those workflows, support AI-driven drafting and reuse, and keep humans in control of final risk. From there, design a phased implementation that starts small, proves governance value, and scales only when the system is working for both creators and decision makers.